Okay, so now we've got this hole upside down. Quite often you won't have the opportunity to actually fully turn a boat over, but if you have, I at least put it on its side and check the boat if you can. This is actually a really good one because in actual fact it's not damaged at the bow. Very common that we have damage on the bow here. It's very thick gel, and it's usually done actually taking your boat on and off the launching trolley and grounding it. It's not a big hassle. If it is, it's quite an easy gel fix. That's not. But look down this bow. Very common to get lots of star crays in here. But again, this bow is really quite decent for such an old boat. But then we're going to move along to the next area, and this is actually, unfortunately, a relatively common situation. In actual fact, there's a crack in the hull here, which has been caused by the launching trolley. And we'll actually take you and look at that launching trolley in a second. But this is a proper crack. It's right through. This actually will be leaking into the hull, and this is going to take serious fixing. In fact, I'm going to do a video about how we actually repair this, and you can see the full extent of that. And this is actually the launch trolley off the boat. It's actually in good, fairly reasonable nick considering how old it is. But this is the culprit here, and it's a flat section. And on a lot of the really quite older 200s, this was the standard trolley. And in fact, you will notice on much newer 200s, they've actually got a proper moulded cradle here to simply avoid the damage that we're actually creating here. And what's happened is that whilst trailing, they've actually over-tightened, over-ratcheted the boat down, and it's literally folding over this point here, and that's what's caused the actual damage. Okay, so we've worked our way back along the boat. The next thing I'm checking here is underneath the shroud U-bolts. It is actually, fortunately for us, because they're so well built in this area, that we don't see cracking that often around here. But it's one of those, if you do, that is implying quite a structural issue, and that really needs to be serious attention paid to it. And the other thing I'm really keen to check all the way around here is the deck to hull joint, because in actual fact, if the bonding paste is actually cracked here, that again is quite a common situation where the boat leaks from. Again, it's actually very easy fix for us. It throws the amateur repairer quite a lot, but for us it's a very easy fix. But I would want to go right the way around the hull and check the deck to hull bonding paste and see if there's any cracking in it. The two really important areas to check on the boat is the slot gasket, and in fact in this one it's obviously completely missing. It's classically pulled off. Really check that. Again, it's such an annoying thing having bought a boat, and in your first couple of sales the slot gasket starts coming off, and you know when the slot gasket's in trouble because you will literally have water spouting into the boat whilst you're sailing along. So this is another 200. Slot gasket is actually on, but it is actually not doing its job. For a start off, you can see here it's completely curled up, and it's actually ripped there, and it's ripped there. So in actual fact, that would let a lot of water into the case whilst you're sailing along, and that is really not a clever idea. So this one would need to be replaced. It's not a bad job, but it's a bit awkward. And if you're buying a second-hand boat, then the slot gasket isn't good. Basically, it should be reflected in the price of the boat. Again, it's a very easy thing to do. You can do it in the dinghy part, but allow a couple of hours because you need to get all this old glue that's on here actually off before you try to put a new one on. And the other one to really look at, which takes a real battering quite often, is the Self-Baler housing. This is in fact the lowest point of the boat, and again, it's completely done when you're launching and landing. How often have I said this in this video? Very frequently. To avoid damaging it, don't try and drag your boat on or off. Get it deep enough to actually float off. If this is severely damaged, it's very difficult to actually really fix it, and sometimes you're literally going to have to rip this off, and you're not going to be able to get this off and put it back on. It will destroy it. So it's a new Self-Baler housing, which last time I looked was something like 80, 90 quid. So again, it's really important. If it's so badly dashed here, the Self-Baler really won't work that well. So actually have a quick look at that before we go anywhere. The other thing to do, if at all possible, even if you don't turn the boat over, lift the boat back on the launching trolley and check the entire area where the boat sits on the launching trolley. you'll be very surprised how often the boat is damaged because the launching trolley cradle is in problems and has actually dented the bottom of the boat. And in actual fact, and you run your hand over it, and this is actually good. This is actually really decent. I'm pleased about this. That's really decent. I can see an old repair here, so there has been some work done here, but I'm not too worried about that because it looks like it's been done properly. Okay, so this is actually a rear cradle off a trolley, and this is the area that causes the damage. The whole idea is that this cradle is curved to actually fit the shape of the hull, but these actual metal plates bonded into the bottom of here. If this cradle is cracked, bends in the wrong places, instead of the boat being universally supported, it's point loaded on this metal plate, which then immediately dents the hull, and that's the big issue. So if you see your cradle that's actually cracked and bowing over this, it needs to get sorted before it damages the bottom of the boat. Okay, so this is an example of a much newer origin Gunnel-Hung launching trolley for 200, and it's got the actual curved front cradles on here, which is actually so much better for the boat than what we had actually originally showed you on that flat section. And this is what we call a Gunnel-Hung. Instead of having a cradle here, all the support is actually taken on these uprights fitting underneath the gunnel here. And this is a good idea. It does actually present some other difficulties and things that you need to check when you're actually inspecting the boat. And we'll actually lift this off now, and we'll show you the problem. And the issue we're talking about is actually this bit here. The front of the gunnel support is hitting this knuckle, and it's usually done getting the boat on and off again. And actually on many 200s now, we've actually had to repair here with that wear, which is actually now getting quite bad, has actually knocked a hole straight through. And the number of boats that come to us saying, my boat is leaking, I can't find it, and we immediately look there and go, that's the issue. So again, when you're actually looking at a boat to buy second hand, it's got a Gunnel-Hung launching trolley, at the very least, lift the boat back on the trolley so that this area is exposed, so you can actually inspect that. It's not a difficult repair, it can be done quite easily, but again, if you're looking at buying a £3,000, £4,000 boat, you don't expect to have a hole in it. Now we move to the back of the boat, and the immediate obvious thing here is the good old skeg. How often do we, in repairing, do what we do called top and tail, where we do the bow, the very bow, bottom of the bow, and the skeg. It's so easy to damage this, getting it on and off the trolley, actually getting it off the road trailer, because how often getting it off the road trailer do you actually grind the back of the boat? It's very common. This is actually so knocked, we would actually want to fiberglass repair that. It's not a difficult repair, it's not expensive, and it's really not an issue again, but you're very unlikely to find a skeg that hasn't got some little knots on. The other thing that we really want to check is the transom here, the deck to hull joint, because they're very prone to being knocked and pushed here, which can stress fracture here. But again, considering this is a 22-year-old boat, this is actually really quite decent.